Mariusz Pudzianowski versus the Bombardier. And I'm going to butcher his name, but I'm going to try anyway, just, because that's what I do. Sergey Uzmandia is headlining KSW 59 this Saturday. And if you haven't seen the Bombardier, he is known as the king of the arena, known as one of the best Senegalese wrestlers, and is a massive 330-pound machine. Pudzianowski, on the other hand, four-time world's strongest man, has actually made a good transition to MMA, has a winning career, likes to go all out in his fights, kind of just brawl. He's suffered a couple losses because of that, but he's got a lot of knockouts as well. So this, my friends, is the definition of a freak show fight that I am all about. So, I don't know how much either of you has background on this. That's all right. But Drake, I'm going to throw it to you first. Pudzianowski versus Bombardier. What are your impressions of this? And, how do you think this is going to go?
Boy, well, a lot of man meat slapping around in that cage is what we're guaranteed to get. Here's some big dudes, man. You said freak show fight, and yeah, it definitely is that by the typical MMA definition of a freak show fight. Of course, we always look at Japan, some classic Pride fights, some Rising fights every now and then. But it's funny because you mentioned Pudzianowski in particular here. He's more of a legit guy than a freak show fighter at this stage, I think, because you look at generally what we get with those classic freak show outings. It's kind of guys who really are not too committed to MMA. They're just big dudes, right? Like that's generally what we're getting out of this. But these guys actually have decent backgrounds. Of course, Bombardier, who has the wrestling, Senegalese wrestling, and then Pudzianowski was a bodybuilder, but he's really gotten into MMA and had over 20 fights now. And of course, not the best record, but 13-7, has committed to actually competing his whole career except for one fight, in KSW. And he's fought, a lot of notable names, Tim Sylvia, James Thompson twice, Sean McCorkle, Ollie Thompson, plenty of people you can look at here. So he's actually a legit MMA fighter, and then as for Bombardier, only had 2 fights, but still a legitimate athlete and somebody who, can make this more of a fight than some kind of sloppy, quick gas fest, which is what we typically get out of freak show fights, right? Like look at Bob Sapp versus Osunarashi, the prime example of one of the most ridiculous things you'll see in life, not even sports. It was absurd if you haven't seen that. But yeah, man, this is going to be very interesting, and it's crazy how massive these dudes are, how good of shape that they're in. They're both 44 years old. I didn't realize that till right before this, but this is going to be really a serious spectacle, I think, for KSW in this time where they haven't done something like this and really hyped it up in a good while, like because of the fact that Pudzianowski has become, a legitimate actual fighter, despite his freak show look to him. We don't often get that on the other end. Like I mentioned, those actual fighters that he did fight, has fought in his career, but then taking on a guy who is still getting his feet wet in MMA if he wants to have a career at this stage in his career, don't know. But he makes the other half of this much more fun and ridiculous, which for KSW, man, like the tippy top of, fight production value. Like it doesn't look any cleaner, any better than what KSW has to offer. Just beautiful presentation that they put on. They're doing things right over there in Europe in that regard and just promoting their athletes, obviously, no matter who it is. So this has got just fun written all over it. It's obviously not going to be the highest of technique and anything like that. There is most likely going to be a knockout. And of course, I'll probably have to favor the guy who, I don't know. I was about to say Pudzianowski, but it's tough because Bombardier is actually a very talented grappler, right? So I have no idea how it's going to go, but I do expect a knockout because, like I said, these aren't the typical freak show fighters, despite looking like them.
Yeah, they're definitely not. I mean, they both have legit backgrounds where this isn't going to be The favorite thing, my favorite thing about the Sap fight that you mentioned was at the end when they had a slow mo of ringing the bell and both Sap just widest grin, so happy and hugged because they were so gassed out at the end of round 1 and they had to fight for another 10 minutes. It was ridiculous. What
and
a fight.
Bob won.
And Bob won, which was amazing. But we're not getting that here. We're getting people, as you mentioned, with legit backgrounds. And, there's only, 2 fights that I could go and find highlights on Bombardier of. But, I mean, he is legit. And he has the, wrestling chops to take somebody down, lay on top of them. This is a guy that was 330 pounds and was wrestling and throwing huge dudes. Go look up Bombardier's Senegalese wrestling. Just go look up some of those highlights. It's insane. If he gets Pudzianowski on the ground, I think this is done. I think it's going to be a bad time for Pudzianowski and it's going to be over. So I'm with you. It's hard to pick here. It's a very even fight of people with legit talent, even though it's a freak fight. It's great. It's awesome. And what are your thoughts on this matchup?
Well, we, especially here at the Body Lock, we take things, pretty seriously most of the time. And we're always about sporting integrity and rankings and who's the best and all sorts of things that we're all about fairness and equity in sports. Man, sometimes it's good to just get down in the gutter and just have some fun. And this is just so much fun. But strangely, it's like they've disguised a fairly legitimate fight in a very fun package.
It's like a clean gutter.
Yeah, it's like, wow, like I don't feel too dirty about loving this because, man, we have, 2 actual proven combat sports commodities clashing against one another. Like this is no different than, say, like Chris Weidman being a standout wrestler fighting in Anderson Silva in his in the 9th fight of his career. It's no different than the legitimacy of that. To have someone experienced as Pudzianowski, who now, 20 fights into his career, yeah, he's an experienced, true mixed martial arts fighter with the resume that Drake went down earlier in this video. So he's like a real commodity. And then to have a guy who's coming off a very legitimate wrestling career, an all-star wrestling career. Yeah, this gets very interesting. It just looks like a freak show because it kind of is, but it's kind of legit. And I don't know what is happening to me, but I like it. So let's rock.
Yeah.
Please sign me up.
There you go, man. Yeah, whenever Ant can't really tell what's happening to him, but he likes that something good's about to happen.
Tingling, baby.
Exactly. So let us know in the comments who you think is going to win this fight. If you've, followed either of these guys' career, especially before they got into MMA, let us know as well. Because I know, Pudzianowski has a huge following for World's Strongest Man. I'm assuming Bombardier also has a massive following for his wrestling career. So let us know that as well. But make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell notification. But yeah, gentlemen, I think it's safe to assume we're probably all, before the other fights that happen on Saturday, we're probably going to all kick back and watch a little bit of this, freak show. Yeah? Yeah.
I've found an excuse to spike my coffee. I'm watching.
Oh, yes. Of course. Always KSW in the morning preceding UFC. That's a great way to flow into it. And especially with this headliner. And it's not like this isn't just a silly card that's only hyping up this, because there actually is the bantamweight title fight in the co-main event. So they are putting on some other very important fights. And not to say that this one isn't important, right? It feels funny to say, a fight that looks like this. How could that be important, right? But, it is actually Pudzianowski, I'm pretty sure, has worked his way towards a title fight before. He hasn't got one, but, at a point he was getting close, right? So it's like these guys, this could mean something in the long run. But as for the rest of the card, of course, plenty of great prospects out of Europe and Poland specifically. And in that co-main event, there will be the bantamweight title on the line. So you should just always check out KSW, you guys, if you're looking for some serious fun and a product that they just know how to get you hyped again. Just to harp on that production value and their presentation, man, like the highlight videos they show directly before the fights. Like if I'm not excited and I see those, I'm like, holy shit, here we go, man. Like for even example, I love Khalidov, right? But his rematch with Askham in the last time out, I was hyped for it, but then that gets rolling. oh, I'm all in, man. I'm like getting antsy, jumping around. That's what KSW brings to you guys. It is good stuff.
And there you have it. And despite everything that Drake just listed in terms of why you should watch KSW, more importantly than all that, Bombardier versus Pudzianowski.